Welcome to Christopher George, the Solution Series. I'm the man with a plan. Not left, not right, not red or blue. This is about what's right. And what we do, highlight integrity driven. Standing for this land, real leadership for all. America, great and small. No parties, no games, no smoke, no spin. Real talk, real vision. Let's begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Christopher George, the Solution Series. Today's episode, Flash, Veterans Hold the Line. The Solution Series is a veteran-led podcast dedicated to raising the standard, both for those who lead and for those who listen. My podcast is grounded in military service and real-world planning. My series replaces noise with structure and rhetoric with responsibility. I'm challenging leaders to deliver real, executable solutions while asking the audience to think critically, demand integrity, and engage more thoughtfully in shaping what comes next. This podcast is built on discipline, accountability, and action because progress requires better leadership and a public willing to meet a higher bar. All right. So like I said, welcome back, people, to my podcast again. Today I want to talk it's the beginning of a new year. Happy New Year, everybody. And I want to talk to my veterans. I want to get some energy for veterans. I think there's a lot more we could be doing and should be doing for this country. And I want to put that in perspective. If you heard my last podcast where I talked about the VCRC initiative that I'm trying to get to where states, give land to veterans, it's a solution for us to start moving again, give us a mission, and introducing some new things into the mix to help us, give us that new guidance. So I'm here for my brothers. And like I said, wherever you're at and listening, I thank you for getting here, however you got here, and listening to my podcast. Before I do any podcast, I got to go to my little spiel about the podcast and stuff. And I apologize up front for those of you who have heard this before. And if you've heard it before, this would be a good opportunity for you to go get a coffee, get something to relax and sit down and listen to me too. Because I'm going to talk about some pretty intense things and I want to make sure you get it. Guys, I don't do this live for the simple reason that I think we need to get in the habit of listening more. If I'm taking the time to put the stuff down, at least you can just take time to listen to me, okay? Everything I say is for the people, by the people. I'm not doing anything for myself. Listen and find out if you don't believe me. But before we get started, like I said, I want to set expectations, not just for the podcast, but for what leadership should look like going forward. I'm trying to help reset what each of us should expect from the people who lead us. And what leadership should expect from us in return. The lead. Leadership isn't just talking. Leadership isn't just pointing out what's wrong. Leadership comes prepared and with a plan, and the courage to talk about it openly. The plan I bring isn't rigid. It's strong enough to move us forward and flexible enough to improve through focused conversation. Because the best plan will always be the one shaped by the most thoughtful input. And that's the expectation here. This space is for discussion, but discussion with a purpose. If you engage, I ask you to be direct, be respectful, focus your energy on the plan. Because right now, I don't see a plan for a lot of my solutions. I don't see a plan in place. If you see a flaw, bring a fix. If you have a what if, bring a possible solution to that what if. Noise doesn't move us forward. Thoughtful contribution does. This podcast is about America, but it's not limited to America because we live in a connected world. I don't know if you haven't realized that yet, but we're connected. Many of the solutions discussed here can be applied anywhere. People who are working to build stability, dignity, or opportunity. My goal is to help America lead again, not by force, but by example. So others can adapt, what works for their own communities. I think that's a good idea. And let me be clear about something I strongly believe in. I believe there's always a nugget of truth and experience and insight. In every person, there's something valuable, something learned, something earned, something seen from a perspective no one else has. That's why I welcome you to this table, every one of you, because without you, there's no us. Without shared experience, there's no progress. But with that welcome comes responsibility, guys. Those insights and experiences are meant to build, not to tear down, to strengthen ideas, not to sabotage them, to move us closer to solutions, not deeper into division. This is about evolution. Evolution as a country, evolution as a people, evolution as a world. Our tools are more powerful than they've ever been. Our ability to build and our ability to destroy. That means we have a responsibility to do better, to think deeper, to lead smarter, and to work towards peace that works for everyone, not just a few. So that's the expectation. That's the standard. And now let's get to work. Like I said before, hello, brothers and sisters in arms, wherever you may be, and whatever your situation may be right now, I greet you. I hope my words today offer you something real, maybe a little courage, maybe some inspiration, maybe some optimism, even some hope. Even if it's just a reminder that someone sees you and understands where you're coming from. And I'm talking to my veterans. In keeping with my tradition for my podcast, before I get into the substance of what I really want to talk about, I want to offer you a vision. I do this because sometimes facts alone don't land the way lived experience do. My hope is that this vision sets the stage for what I'm about to say and gives you a clear perspective of where I'm coming from and why this matters so much right now. Before I go any further, I need to say this as well. If you're carrying something heavy today, if anything I says stirs something up, I apologize up front because that's not my intent. I'm not trying to reopen old wounds. I know a lot of us veterans are going through some things. I'm not trying to reopen or drag anybody back to a place that, that you're working to move beyond. It's for those exact reasons that I need your support today. And I need someone to listen. But if you need somebody or if you need support to listen, reach out. You're not alone. I also want you to hear this clearly. I've got your back. I've been out here for a little while now and I can see some of the problems forming. I'm not speculating. I'm watching. And when I see something that threatens our community, I talk about it because I care about us. Even though we don't wear the uniforms anymore, there are still people out here trying to do right by veterans because you matter. You always have. Now, if you're able, I want you to do something with me, like in all my little podcasts. Close your eyes for a moment. Like I said, this podcast is primarily for the veterans, but civilians, I need you to listen to this because you can get some good insight on the veterans. And this is a team effort, so I'm gonna need you to get on our team. And when I say veterans, guys, I'm not just talking about military veterans. This could be cops, firefighters, veterans. So listen up. Imagine the first day you stepped into the military. Maybe it was the bus ride. Maybe it was the paperwork. Maybe it was standing in line, not knowing what was coming next. That moment when you realize this is real now. For many of us, the first truly impactful moment was the haircut, the chair, the sound of the clippers, that first strip of hair hitting the floor. It wasn't about the hair. It was about the identity. Whatever you thought you were before, that version was being stripped away. And in that moment, whether you realize it or not, you started holding on. I went to basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was an M1A1 tanker. And my training was different because I went through what they called on-station unit training, OSUT, which was instead of the normal 8 weeks of basic training, it was 14 straight weeks. No break, no pause, just continuous pressure. Basic training pushes you physically in ways most people never experience. Sweat, exhaustion, getting up early in the morning, getting up when your body is telling you to stop. And every time you looked around, what did you see? The same uniform. So you hold on. Different backgrounds, different hometowns, different personalities, but the same uniform. The uniform told you something powerful. You're not alone. You're part of a team. In OSU, we didn't just train physically. We were introduced to our weapon system early. The tank, the M1A1 tank, the most powerful weapon system on the battlefield, without a doubt. Death before dismount, always. People sometimes criticize the military for being too intense, too fast, too harsh. But there's a method to it. Complexity layered on top of discipline. Responsibility introduced under pressure. That approach matters, and it's something I've tried to carry forward in my work in one of my other programs which is the situation-oriented critical thinking exercise for education. It's a replacement, but I digress. Let me come back to the story. After the initial weeks in O-suit, we moved into gunnery. And in tank, for anybody who has never seen understand the tank, the lowest position on a tank is a loader. So that's what we get trained on in basic training, because when we leave basic training, our first position in the new organization, which is our organization unit, will be a loader. Everyone starts there. It's a loader, driver, gunner, and then tank commander. You're on your way up. As a young private, I started in the loader's position. Loader's position, like I said, everyone starts where, and you earn your way up. When I came in 1989, the M1A1 was really just coming out, and the first round it came out with was the 105 millimeter tank round. The easiest way to understand is to forget everything you think about when you see the word bullet or round, and forget everything you thought about. The 105 millimeter tank round is not a bullet. Picture something about the length of a grown man's leg, from hip to ankle, and thicker than a soda can. I'm sorry. It's about 40 pounds of solid, dense aluminum with on the armor piercing rounds with a hard metal top. And like I say, you don't feel like you're holding a round of ammunition. It actually feels like you're holding a missile. That's what they look like, a missile. When it fires, it doesn't crack like a rifle, like pow. It doesn't bang like a shotgun. It detonates like a TNT explosion. Boom! And it's more than noise, it's pressure because of the intensity of that and the size of that round. You don't just hear it, you feel it in your chest, your teeth, your spine. It's the kind of force that momentarily shuts your body down and reminds you that physics is in charge. Inside the tank, when that round goes off, part of the casing ejects out and it's an aluminum casing about a foot long of hot metal. Hot. It's hot enough to melt the polish off my boot, or scorch anything that I touch. And it bounces around just for a quick second because those initial rounds, like I said, a foot of metal came out. On the later rounds, they got smarter and only a small piece came out and it was less threatening. But for these early rounds, man, I'm sorry, I'll get more into that. But it's hot. And to touch it is, it's a significant physical challenge, especially over prolonged periods when the tank is moving on the rough terrain. Not only listening to it shoot, but actually having to pick up another round and load it. A good loader, a beginning loader may take 7 to 8 seconds to load one round. That's where you hit it. You hit it, a knee switch, a door opens to your right. The rounds are lined up in there, and you hit a tab, a part of the round pops out. You pull it out. You pull it from the bottom end of the round first. It drops down into your left hand. You flip it over to the gun tube, and then you push it in. So you really don't get a chance. And over time, a good loader can do it in 4 seconds. Boom. When you're on the outside, listen to boom, boom, boom. But that doesn't tell you what's really going on inside that tank and the intensity of what's going on because we use manual loaders. Outside the tank, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do: defeat armor or destroy hardened targets. It doesn't wound. It doesn't warn. It overwhelms. Whatever it hits is either destroyed outright or rendered useless in seconds. And that's the kind of point I'm kind of bring off to remind us of as veterans. We don't do this in anger. We don't fire these weapons in anger. We don't even use them emotionally. It's something at the point, we do this out of straight discipline. All that noise, intensity, chaos, we do it out of discipline. And what I want to say is when you're trained to operate weapons like that, your relationship with violence changes. You don't romanticize it, you respect it. You understand exactly and how final it is. And like I said earlier, when that gun fired for the first time, it wasn't just loud, it was violent. Even with my helmet on, which was designed to reduce the noise. Even though we're inside the vehicle and it's buttoned down, which means it's air pressure closed, it was designed to reduce the noise. And the noise was still loud and the vibration was still shaking me up. Every instinct in my body told me when that round went off to run. Chris, get the hell up out of here. It's time to go. This is no place for you, man. You from Arizona? You from no, but I looked around. Inside that tank, I seen three more uniforms. Men just like me. Scared, possibly scared. Have been through this same thing I've been through. Focused, holding on. Now, uniform told me something again. Stay where you are. You're not alone. So like I said, I held on. We fired again and again and again. And slowly something changed. That noise became tolerable. The chaos became something I could function inside of. Not because it was safe, but because adaptation is what we do. I thought nothing at the time. I thought nothing would ever top that as a, as an experience that kind of altered my life. But I was wrong. Fast forward. Now I'm now in Desert Storm. It's real war. And as the tankers in war, we're out, and this is actually during the war. Tankers we understood combined armed warfare. For civilians, listen, that means everything working together. That means armor, Air Force, naval fire, artillery fire, all of it working together, and it's layered and coordinated. But this was the first time that in my little military career that I had ever been close enough to artillery impacts. And let me tell you something about artillery. Artillery is something only ever want to witness in battle. We weren't close at all to the artillery. I don't think we were. I don't think we were danger close for us. But I'll tell you this, it was close enough for me to feel the impact, and it was terrifying. You know, you read the Bible sometimes and you hear about the trumpets sounded all over the sky, and the sky was loud and the noise was loud. And that's what this sounded like to me. And once again, I'm inside of a button up tank with my headset on, and the noise was so loud that it shook my core. This was louder than the boom of the tank round. It felt like something was actually eating up the land. It's the loudest sound I have ever heard in my life. And it scared the hell out of me. It felt like the tank was being lifted off the ground. A tank is 69 tons. I wasn't trained for that. I wasn't trained for that at all. But then, like I said, guys, I looked around. Different vehicles, different branches of service, different roles, different uniforms, all towards the same purpose, all on the same team. As scared as I was, I held on. And that's how a lot of times we got through things. And if a lot of you listening, you understand that's how a lot of times we got through stuff. We held on because our left and right was holding on too. We learned to hold on through violence. We learned to hold on through destruction, through things that most people will never see. And over time, we learned to become numb to violence, not because we wanted to, but because the mission demanded it. And I'm telling you now, in this environment, this American environment that we're in right now, that mindset, that mentality, that numbness is a danger. That ability to push through chaos is what makes us so effective in war. But when it's pointed inward, without structure or mission, it becomes something else entirely. Something that I really don't want to see. Back then, we were holding on. In combat, we were holding on. Now that I'm out, I'm asking veterans to hold the line. Because when we come home, we don't see the uniforms anymore. We don't immediately know who's on our team. That uncertainty can pull people towards noise, anger, and extremes. That's why I'm asking us to do better for ourselves. Don't join the fray. Don't let the training be used the wrong way. Support missions that rebuild structure and purpose for veterans. Like I got a new plan coming out called the Veteran Civil Renewal Compact. It's about land, work, and community, a way to build a team across. We got to get focused on the right things, guys, not on negative stuff. Because when we don't have a mission, we drift. When we do have a mission, we don't drift. We don't escalate. And we don't burn things down. We got to have a mission that we can see, because well, bottom line, guys, we need to hold the line. And that's what this whole podcast is about, is holding the line. So that's the vision I kind of wanted to paint for you before I get started and get into the weeds of what I want to talk about. Like I said earlier, I want to start this clearly by saying words matter right now. And I want everybody to understand, I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not here to provoke you. I'm not here to pedestalize myself or anybody else, but There are moments in history where staying quiet becomes a mistake. I think this is one of those moments, and that's why I'm trying to speak out on this. We've got National Guard units in the streets. We got military equipment staged and moving into cities. Tensions are high enough right now that people aren't watching the news to be informed. They're watching it to confirm what they already believe. That alone should concern every single person who has ever worn a uniform. Because when military presence becomes part of domestic life, even temporarily, history tells us that discipline, restraint, and leadership matter more than ever. Veterans, of all people, should recognize what moments like this mean and how easily they can go sideways if we lose our footing. We have a lot of recent incidents right now that are kind of escalating. We had a couple of executions in public executions, the Charlie Kirk thing. And, we got violence going on. And, it got me to thinking about us, the military, because, violence and military, I hate to say it, but we do go together. For some reason, it got me to thinking about the January 6th piece. And then I only say this, guys, and I bring it, like I said, I'm not here to blame or point fingers, but I wanted to look at the January 6th thing. And I said, you know what? I wonder how many veterans were there. And I wasn't going to look for a political point. I just wanted to see what the stats would look like. I went looking because I wanted to understand something that didn't sit right with me. And what I found was kind of troubling. As late of 2020, 24, and early 2025, more than 230 individuals with military backgrounds, most of them veterans, had been charged in connection with the January 6th riot. Early reports showed smaller numbers because investigations were still unfolding. But as the data matured, the picture became clearer. A Seton Hall Center for Policy and Research Analysis found that among 716 defendants, 105 had military experience. Broader data from the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism indicates that out of roughly 1,500 total individuals charged, about 230 had military backgrounds. Veterans make up roughly 6 to 7% of the U.S. adult population. Yet in early analysis, they represented over 10 to 20% of those charged. Guys, that is a proportion we can't afford to ignore. We even had a rioter that was killed by gunfire that day, shot by a Capitol police officer while attempting to breach a restricted area in the Capitol. An Air Force National Guard veteran was fatally shot while lawmakers were being evacuated and law enforcement was trying to defend members of Congress. I'm not saying this to shame veterans. I'm saying it because this is unacceptable for a community trained in discipline, restraint, and lawful use of force. Our presence, our training, and our participation in extreme acts carry weight that most people don't understand. When veterans get pulled into something like that, even unintentionally, it elevates the stakes. It amplifies the signal. And that is precisely why I felt compelled to speak up now. That realization is one of the reasons I felt compelled to write this and speak now. Because when we drift towards extremes, the consequences aren't theoretical. They're destructive. They're amplified, and we of all people should know better. We are a community entrusted with discipline, restraint, accountability, and respect for lawful order. We cannot let our training be warped into justification for chaos or division. If we're going to be involved in anything, let it be purposeful, constructive, and in the service to the mission of strengthening this country, not tearing it apart. And as a veteran, that is why we need to pause. We need to slow this down because this is not normal right now. I'm listening to the commentary after all the violent episodes, the online noise, the immediate rush to ask, was it left or right? Before the story has even been public. And I need to say this plainly. As veterans, we should not be participating in that reflex. Reducing the loss of human life to partisan labels is wrong, full stop. And for people who were untrained, and for people who were trained to cut through noise, maintain discipline, and think clearly under pressure, it's totally unacceptable. I'm really refraining from using cuss words right now, and I apologize. I know I'm talking to my veteran population now. And normally I'd be using cuss words left and right to talk to you guys, but I'm refraining from that because I know some civilians are listening. But there's a lot of I could be using right now talking about this, contributing to the kind of energy That speculation, the labeling, the drama adds fuel to something that does not need fuel right now. Protests, peaceful protests, that's part of the country. That's fine. But some of the talk I'm hearing from veterans lately, some of the language, some of the fantasies, it's all off the charts. And it tells me some of us are forgetting who we were or who we are. We were trained to slow things down, not accelerate chaos. We were trained to take life to save lives overseas. That was the moral framework. That was the mission. What I'm hearing now sounds like people flirting with the idea of taking life at home here in America. Stop and think about that. Does that even make sense to you? Because if it does, then you lost our plot. And I'm trying to bring you back. Please listen, because this is where I need to get real, very real, about what veterans actually know how to do and why that knowledge cannot be unleashed in the United States. Here's the part civilians don't always understand, and I guess a lot of you goddamn veterans don't understand either. And this is an absolute must. Because guess what? This is not the Civil War of the 1860s. This is not young men with muskets and no concept of modern warfare walking blindly with some big ass bullets coming at them. Since the Civil War, warfare has changed completely. Back then, you had formations, musket, limited mobility, limited blast radius, limited understanding of sustained urban conflict. That's not what we're dealing with now, guys. I'm talking about some natural born killers that we have trained. We're talking about generations of trained veterans. Vietnam, Desert Storm, Somalia, Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, special ops, joint operations, urban warfare, counterinsurgency. Modern veterans understand explosives. Not just what they do to a target, but what they do to everything around it. Blast overpressure doesn't stop at the intended point. It shatters windows 3 blocks away. It collapses walls. It liquefies organs. It kills people who never even saw it coming. Booby traps don't just hit the enemy. They hit kids. They hit EMTs. They hit second and third person who comes to help. IED style violence, for you who don't know, improved explosive devices don't just take lives. They destroy neighborhoods. Think about it. American cities, gated communities, one way in, one way out, narrow streets, apartment complexes stacked on top of each other. I don't need an imagination to understand how catastrophic any kind of war in the United States would be right now. You just need experience to understand that. And we got an abundance of that experience with veterans. Good old American know-how that we do not need to have unleashed in our own country. That knowledge is lethal. That alone should end any talk of internal war. Because we learned command and control, logistics at scale, like I said earlier, explosives and ID patterns, booby traps and asymmetric tactics, sustained operations over time. The idea of guerrilla tradecraft, IEDs, or organized violence on American soil isn't theoretical. That's why I'm saying this as clearly as I can. We are too dangerous to be involved in this. And for those of you who don't hear me, we are too dangerous to be involved in this. This isn't about being calm. This is about responsibility. Which brings me to the point of this episode and everything you've heard me from again. Veterans, I need you to hold the line. You know, I felt I needed to explain something because I think this is something that even as veterans, we kind of get lost on. And it's something I need to explain to the civilians about, the services and stuff. And veterans, we have combat arms veterans. And in the Army, we call them combat arms. These are the ones who actually pull the triggers, the ones we use to go, get the mission done. The artilleries, the tankers, naval ships, the Apache helicopters and all that kind of stuff. But then we have another organization we have other organizations called combat support and combat services support. These are the ones who sustain the war fighters, the people with the bullets. It used to be a saying that for every one combat soldier, for every infantry guy on the battlefield, there was like 7 support soldiers that supported him. And that's the group I want to talk to right now. I want to talk directly to that group because I feel there's some drama going on over there. We need to get clear of it. As a veteran, I'm talking to veterans, so I feel we can be candid with each other. I know there are veterans out there who always wanted to get some. You either watched from the sidelines or never got a chance to get into the fight. You trained hard, you were ready, and for one reason or another, it didn't happen. Either you stayed in, a couple of years, got out, but for whatever reason, you wasn't able to get some. I deployed with a couple of you during my deployment as a commissioned officer. I was in Kabul, and I had a bunch of HR guys running around me with 4 or 5 knives, wanting to go on patrols and stuff. And their job was to take care of manage the paperwork, but they wanted to go get some. They wanted to go get some. They wanted to get out there in the mess. They want to get on one of the patrols. So I know who you are out there. And I need you to hear me now. Stand down. Now that you're civilians, you still are trying to get some. I need you to stand down. Like I said, for every person like I said, for the civilians, you don't understand what I'm talking about. For every trigger puller, you know, there's people supporting them, medics, mechanics, fuelers, supply, planners, intel, admin. A lot of them wanted to get some. And to my veterans, civilians don't see your MS or your job title when you get out. They don't understand, the military the way we do. They don't understand that you were in there giving fuel, all this kind of stuff. All they understand that you wore the uniform that you might know about getting some. So they're going to look at you and they're going to say, okay, he's a military. And then that's going to make you feel like, oh, I'm the man now. Whatever the situation with me, I need you to stand down. Because when we speak recklessly, when we posture, when we speculate, we're not just another voice. We become a signal. And that signal can be more dangerous than anything a civilian says. And that responsibility belongs to us all, whether you're old, young, happy or dumb, veterans, that belongs to us all, And let me make something else clear, guys. This message is especially for veterans who served in the military or served for a shorter time, because I know a lot of you didn't get the full, like I said, didn't get the full impact of wanting to get some, please. You're still disciplined. You learn the trade craft. You understand how to work under pressure. That still makes you dangerous. Still makes you part of this responsibility. And I'm talking about the law enforcement. When I say veterans, I'm talking about the cops, MPs, cops. That, guys, you also have skills that are invaluable too and could be a danger if used in the wrong direction. Stand down. Your skills are real. Your influence is wide. I need you to hold the line too. Because here's a truth a lot of us won't say out loud. We are too dangerous to be pawns. Our training teaches us how to identify weaknesses, how to mass force, how to overwhelm, and then how to finish decisively. That capability is a national asset when pointed outward. Pointed inward, it's total devastation. That's why integrity and honor aren't just values. They're the safety mechanism on what we know how to do. Integrity isn't proven by whether you've been under fire. It's proven on what you do now. Integrity isn't proven by whether you've been under fire. It's proven by what you do now. All right. And this is where I pivot, not to politics, but to purpose. Like I said, talking about something grave and not giving you some hope is a bad thing. So that's why I told you earlier about the Veteran Civil Renewal Compact. It's an idea simple but powerful. Permanent land donated for veterans across the United States. Land we work, land we build on, land where veterans create structure, purpose, food, housing, and stability. Not charity, not handouts. Structure, ownership, and mission. One of the most dangerous moments for veterans isn't anger. It's going from mission every day to no mission at all. That's when we drift. That's when some of the energy can go sideways. So we need something. This VCRC is a way about, putting veterans back to work, not just for ourselves, but for the country and for everybody else, for the communities. That's how we prevent chaos, people. That's how we redirect our energies, because we got a lot of energy. And that's how we rebuild. Clear expectations. All right. So here's what I'm asking, guys, and I don't want to make this podcast too long, because this is, you can keep saying the same thing over and over again, and I don't want to be one of those people. Put it up front, put it out one time, and hope you listen to me. If you got to, rewind. But here's what I'm asking for: put integrity and honor first. No labels at all. If you ask me, the only label we carry is American. Stop partisan reflexes. Get out of the partisan business, guys. I'm gonna tell you right now, half these civilians don't know what the hell they're doing. They really don't. When you really look at some of the civilian leadership that we have and some of the training that they have, if they haven't been in the military, you see that they haven't really been trained to handle issues. Political science doesn't teach you. A political science major doesn't teach you how to handle people and how to do all that good stuff. So, I give them my A for effort, but it's a lot of times with the corporations involved, it gets lost. We need to be that. We need to be that light out there, in the darkness, guys. The veterans. We need to be that light out there in the darkness, you know. And like I said, all who served, you need to hold the line. That includes you short timers. You 2, 3 year got out and get in and got out. You're a veteran. I know sometimes there's a hard, so a lot of you don't feel like veterans, but I only did 2 years. I hear it all the time. I only did 3 years. No, you a damn veteran. You've been trained, you know. So I need you to just reject any Civil War talk outright. That fallout would be irreversible. That would destroy this country. I'm just letting you know that right now. Lead where you live. Be stabilizers, not accelerants. Be that foundation, guys. Keep it simple. Integrity, honor, and duty. Don't get pulled into partisan chaos. Don't romanticize violence there. So just don't forget what you actually know how to do. Here's my closing. I'm not coming to you today out of a false sense of concern. I'm coming at you because the data and our own lived experience demands honesty. On January 6th, over 100 of the individuals charged with veterans. That matters. Veterans make up 7% of the U.S. adult population, yet our representation in that event was far higher than our share of the country. That imbalance should stop every one of you and every one of us in our tracks. Not because it indicts all veterans. It doesn't. But because it tells us something important. When veterans drift towards the extremes, the consequences are amplified. When veterans drift towards extremes, the consequences are amplified. And that's exactly why I'm saying this now. Veterans don't belong on the extremes. Veterans need to hold the middle. And here's why. We all start roughly in the same place. Many of us stood on the same footprints and basic training. We learned discipline, teamwork, accountability. After that, our paths split. Different branches, different missions, different wars, different outcomes. Our military expenses were vastly different. But the one thing that binds us has always been the same. A willingness to serve this country and make it better, no matter where we served or how long we served. And when we come home, our lives split again. Some of us succeeded. Some of us struggled. Some of us are still finding our footing. But that doesn't divide us. It makes us real. It makes us human. It makes us veterans. And here's what I need us to remember clearly. We are still a young country. We're still learning how to govern ourselves. And yes, progress in America has progress in America. And yes, progress in how America treats its veteran has been made. But the next phase of that progress has to come from us. We have to be a part of that progress. Veterans, we got to quit standing around waiting for somebody to give us a handout and tell us what we should be doing. We've seen failed states. We've seen broken systems. We've seen what happens when the law collapses, when corruption takes over, when institutions lose legitimacy. We understand better than most why people around the world want to come here so badly. We've seen what works for veterans and what doesn't. Programs that check the boxes and programs that actually change lives. I know deep in my bones that we are capable of doing far more for this country than we are doing right now. Not by taking control, not by force, not by confusing leadership with domination. The average American gets to live every day under a warm blanket of stability. They don't always realize who helped weave it. Outside that blanket, in much of the world, it's cold, it's unforgiving, it's chaotic, and we've been there. That perspective matters right now. This is not about taking control of the country. This is about showing up with the skills we were trained to use. When we left the military, many of us tried to fit into the systems that were built for how we think. We tried to do things their way. And that works for some, but not for all. The truth is, this country hasn't even begun to tap into the full value of veterans in the civilian world. Not even close. I believe we can be more for our country. We can be our own industry. America right now is hungry for something it can't quite name. I'll tell you what they're starving for. It's integrity. It's thirsting for discipline without cruelty, strength without ego, leadership without corruption. And that's not about making everything militaristic. It's about bringing mission clarity back into the room, being able to look at a problem without caring which church someone came from or which jersey they're wearing, being able to say, this is the mission. These are the facts. This is the right thing to do. That's the veteran way of thinking. I need all of you to hold the line, because holding the line is a statement is a testament to our training and our strength. It's recognizing every single day that that what we're seeing unfold is not what we put our lives on the line for. It's knowing deep down, this is not what we said we would fight or die for. And it's because we know that we don't overreact. We don't escalate. We don't burn everything down. We don't see color. We don't see labels. We see the mission and we hold. I want you to think, I ask veterans, you know, I think about it, some talk about, for every combat fighter out there, there's a support person. And for some of y'all need you to think about that. Some support person kept you alive without even knowing who you are, without even knowing what color you were, without even knowing what church you went to. They kept you alive because you were an American, because you were another soldier, because you wore that uniform. America needs that perspective more than ever, guys. Right now, yesterday. I don't need your outrage. I don't need your outrage. I don't need your idea. I need your ideas. I need your experience. We need to start talking seriously about the next outcomes for veterans in this country, how we organize, how we lead, how we help stabilize communities and guide the next generation. There are young men out there right now who are angry, disconnected, and searching for purpose. We know how to reach them. Veterans know how to reach young men and women. There are young women out there who need structure, mentorship, and belief. We know how to provide that too. We know how to do this. We were trained to take charge, not for ourselves, but for the mission. And the mission right now is not war. The mission now is renewal. Hold the Line is about giving veterans real responsibility again, real ownership over projects, communities, and solutions. About letting veterans help shape environments instead of constantly reacting to broken ones. So I'm asking you, wherever you are, whatever your plan has been, stand in the middle with me. Bring your values, bring your discipline, bring your clarity, because we can stabilize communities. We can guide instead of inflame. We can build instead of destroy. Because I guarantee you, when the lights go off, it's going to be the veterans holding that lamp, helping to bring them on. I'm not interested in rhetoric. I'm interested in solutions. I'm bringing solutions. I need you to bring it with me. And if you're with me, say so. If you got practical ideas, reach out. Hold the line. Thanks for that. And I thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And if you're listening, a civilian, I thank you, for supporting your veterans. Guys, follow me, push me out. Let's get this thing started. And like I said, I want to recap one more time because I think this is important, guys. I want to do a recap. So here's what I'm asking you guys. And I'm talking to the veterans. The civilians, if you can get on this boat, that'd be a beautiful thing too. Put integrity and honor first. If a person has those, you can trust their character more than their labels. Stop the partisan label. Killing is not red or blue. Wrong is wrong, period. All who served hold the line. Combat arms, support, short times, veteran cops, everyone. Your role matters now as much as it ever did. Reject any talk of civil war. Don't even support that BS. The skills and tradecraft we possess make that unthinkable. The fallout would be irreversible. Step into leadership. Lead in your homes, your neighborhoods, your communities. Be the stabilizers, not the accelerants, like I said. And like I said, keep it simple. Integrity, honor, duty. Live by that checklist. So that's veteran thinking, guys. Hold the Line is a testament to our training and our strength. It's recognizing every single day that we are seeing unfold in front of us is not what we put our lives on the line for. We know deep down that a lot of this stuff that's going on is not right. Don't join into it. Thank you. This is Christopher George signing out. Look forward to seeing you again. All right then.